My brothers, my sisters, my people of Africa, my beloved children of this sacred continent that the Creator Himself placed at the very center of this earth, I want you to listen to me tonight. I want you to sit down wherever you are sitting. I want you to put down whatever you are holding in your hands and open your ears and open your hearts and let what I am about to say enter into you like water enters into dry ground. Because what I am about to tell you tonight is not a small matter. It is not gossip. It is not rumor. It is not the kind of story that men tell each other under a mango tree just to pass the afternoon. No. What I am about to tell you is the story of Africa. It is the story of what they keep doing to us. It is the story of what happens when a man who is supposed to serve the people decides instead to serve himself, to serve his pockets, to serve the foreign masters who put crowns on the heads of traitors and call those traitors leaders. There is a man. You know this man. The whole of Africa knows this man. His name sits at the top of one of the most populated nations on this continent, Nigeria. 220 million people. The numbers keep growing because that is what Africa does. Africa grows, Africa multiplies. Africa is full of life, Africa is full of young people. Africa is full of energy that could power this entire world if only the right hands were at the steering wheel. But instead, what do we have in Nigeria today? We have a man by the name of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, sitting in a house built on the suffering of the Nigerian people, and making decisions every single day that betray those same people in ways that are so painful, in ways that are so shameful, that when I heard about what he did to those 76 young doctors, I had to stop everything. I had to sit down. I had to breathe. Because sometimes when you hear about the wickedness of these men, the wickedness is so enormous, it takes the breath completely away from your chest. Let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you the full story, because the people deserve the full story. Not the sanitized version the controlled media will give them. They deserve the raw and complete truth, the way you give a sick man the full dose of his medicine, and not just a half dose because you are afraid the full dose might be too strong. The full dose is what heals. The full dose is what saves lives. And so tonight I will give you the full dose. There are young men and young women in Nigeria who dedicated years of their lives to becoming doctors. Years. Not months. Not weeks. Years. These are young Africans who looked at their continent, who looked at their communities, who looked at their mothers dying of preventable diseases, who looked at their fathers suffering with conditions that could be treated if only a qualified doctor was nearby. And these young people made a decision. They made a sacrifice. They said to themselves, I will study. I will study hard. I will go through all the pain and all the sleepless nights and all the years of hardship that come with being a student. And I will come out the other side as a medical doctor, because my people need me. My continent needs me. Africa needs me. And so they studied. They sat in those classrooms. They carried those heavy books. They bent over those pages under the dim light when the electricity had gone out again. They studied in the heat. They studied when their stomachs were empty. They studied through all of it. And after all of those years, after all of that sacrifice, 76 of them completed their medical education. 76 young Africans who earned the Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery. 76 new doctors ready to serve, ready to go into the hospitals and the clinics and the communities and begin the work that Africa so desperately needs them to do. 76. Say that number with me. 76. You know how many hospitals could benefit from 76 new doctors? You know how many women are dying in childbirth in Nigeria every single year because there is no trained doctor within reach? You know how many children are dying of malaria because the nearest clinic is understaffed and overwhelmed? 76 doctors entering the Nigerian healthcare system would have been a blessing, not a solution to every problem. Nothing is ever a complete solution to problems built over generations, but a step, a contribution, a proof that the system is working, a proof that the investment in education is producing results, a proof that Nigeria is moving forward and that Africa is growing. But Tinubu abandoned them. Tinubu looked at those 76 young doctors and turned his back on them. He abandoned them the way a father abandons his children on the roadside and drives away without checking the mirror. He abandoned them without shame. He abandoned them without explanation. He abandoned them without even the basic human decency of looking them in the face and telling them why. The first reason is this. When a government does not invest in its own people, it is because that government does not see its people as assets. It sees them as liabilities. When Tinubu looks at those 76 medical graduates, he does not see 76 solutions to Nigeria's healthcare crisis. He sees 76 salaries he would have to pay. He sees 76 obligations. And because his loyalty is not to the Nigerian people but to the financial arrangements he has made with the people who put him in power, he calculates that it is cheaper, more convenient, more politically comfortable to simply let those 76 doctors disappear into the diaspora, into foreign countries that will gladly absorb them, because foreign countries understand the value of African excellence in ways that African governments refuse to understand. The very countries that colonized Africa, the very countries that extracted the minerals and the labor and the intellectual resources of this continent for centuries, those very countries are still extracting from us today. But now they do it more cleverly. Now they do not always come with guns. Most of the time they come with visa programs and scholarship offers and hospital recruitment drives, and they go into African universities and African hospitals and take our best and our brightest and bring them to their countries, where those brilliant young Africans spend their careers making Europe better, making America better, while the villages and the cities those young Africans came from continue to suffer without enough doctors, without enough engineers, without enough of the skilled human beings. Every society needs to function and to grow. And this is what Tinubu has enabled. This is what Tinubu has facilitated with his abandonment of those 76 doctors. He has made himself a partner in the extraction. He has made himself an agent of the continued draining of African talent away from Africa. And I ask you, I ask every Nigerian listening to me tonight, is this the kind of leader you deserve? Is this the kind of leadership that 220 million people deserve? People who survived slavery, people who survived colonialism, people who fought and bled and died for independence. Do those people deserve a leader who abandons 76 of their young doctors? No, they do not. These 76 doctors did not just appear out of thin air. Someone paid for their education. The Nigerian people paid for their education through taxes collected, through oil revenue that is supposed to serve the public good. Every poor woman in Lagos who sells food by the roadside and pays her little contribution into the system paid for those doctors. Every farmer in Kano who watches as the government takes its share of whatever little he produces paid for those doctors. The Nigerian people collectively, through years of contribution, made it possible for those 76 young people to become qualified medical practitioners, and then Tinubu abandoned them. In abandoning those doctors, Tinubu did not just betray 76 individuals. He betrayed every single Nigerian whose contribution went into producing those doctors. He took the investment of the masses and threw it away. He took what the people built and discarded it, not because there was no choice, not because the country could not afford to absorb those doctors, but because absorbing them was never the priority. The priority was always something discussed in rooms that ordinary Nigerians are never invited into, in conversations between powerful men who have decided amongst themselves how the resources of Nigeria will be allocated. And the answer to that question has never, not once, been that the resources will go to the people. Thomas Sankara understood something different. When Sankara was leading this country, he looked at young Burkinabe people and saw the future of the nation. He did not have unlimited resources. Nobody who leads an African country has unlimited resources, because the entire global economic system is designed to keep African countries resource constrained. But Sankara had something Tinubu does not have. He had the will. He had the genuine, uncompromising, non-negotiable will to put his people first. And where that will exists, solutions are found. Where that will is absent, excuses are found instead. Tinubu has found his excuses. His government will tell you about the fiscal situation. They will tell you about debt burdens. They will talk about reforms that are necessary and the pain that must come before the gain. They will quote economic indicators and growth projections and tell you that in the long run the decisions being made today will produce prosperity tomorrow. And it will all sound very reasonable, very sophisticated, very modern. But behind all of that sophistication, 76 young doctors are sitting somewhere wondering what their country has decided to do with them, wondering whether the years of sacrifice were worth it, wondering whether Africa will ever be a place where an African who works hard and builds himself can find a place to stand and serve and be valued. What would it have cost to absorb those 76 doctors? What would it have required to honor the years of sacrifice those young people poured into becoming what they became? It would have required a decision, a political decision, a decision that says the health of the Nigerian people matters more to this government than any other consideration. It would have required a leader who looks at 76 newly qualified doctors and sees 76 opportunities to strengthen the healthcare system. It would have required someone who thinks about governance the way a general thinks about protecting his people, not the way a merchant thinks about maximizing his returns. I am calling on every Nigerian tonight. I am calling on the young people especially. I am calling on civil society. I am calling on every single Nigerian who understands that a country that abandons its doctors is a country abandoning its future. Make noise about this, not just about these 76 doctors, but about the philosophy behind the abandonment. Because the philosophy is the enemy, and until that philosophy is defeated, replaced with one that centers the African person, the African community, the African future, the abandonments will continue. They will find different forms, they will produce different numbers, but the result will always be the same. Africa is watching Nigeria. The continent is watching. Because when Nigeria does well, Africa feels it. And when Nigeria fails its people, Africa feels that too. 1 in 5 Africans is Nigerian. The decisions made in Abuja are not just Nigerian decisions. They are African decisions in their weight and in their consequences. Those 76 doctors are Africa. They are the best of what Africa produces when it invests in its own people. They were ready to serve. They were ready to give back. They were ready to be part of the answer to Nigeria's healthcare crisis. And they were abandoned. That abandonment must be the last one. Let it be the one that wakes Nigeria up. Let it be the decision that finally makes it clear that the philosophy governing Nigeria today is not a philosophy of the people, not a philosophy of Africa, not a philosophy of dignity and investment and growth. I am Ibrahim Traoré. I speak tonight not as an enemy of Nigeria, but as a brother, as an African, as a man who loves this continent too much to stay silent when its children are being abandoned. Nigeria, rise up. Demand your doctors back. Demand a government that sees your children as assets and not as liabilities. Demand the future you deserve. You have earned it. Every single one of you has earned it. And those 76 doctors have earned it most of all. Africa does not forget. Africa does not sleep. And Africa, my brothers and my sisters, Africa will not be silenced.